everyone, welcome back to Actual English. My name is Jennifer Clyde. It's time for lesson 99 and today let's talk about fortune telling, fortune tellers. Okay, but first of all, do you believe in fortune tellers? Do you often go to a fortune teller to have your fortune told? Well, some people may go to ask questions whenever they have questions about anything, or sometimes I've seen people go to fortune tellers because they have problems and they don't know what to do. They're curious as to whether they should do something or not do something. When somebody starts a new job, or even is thinking about starting a new business, I've seen plenty of people going to the fortune teller to ask tons of questions. I've even had a friend, actually he's about 2 years older than me. He would go to the fortune teller every single time he had a question about anything. So he would rely a lot on the fortune teller and he dragged me along with him once. So I went there and the story I heard, it was pretty much a very ordinary story, and I thought this person could tell anyone the same thing and make people believe, oh wow, so this is going to happen. This isn't going to happen. One last question. Have you ever met someone that you believed could be your partner in life, but you went to a fortune teller to see if you were compatible or not? I've seen plenty of people doing that too. Okay, anyhow, let's find out much more about fortune telling and fortune tellers through today's conversation. It's time for Actual Talk.
Hey Peter, do you know what's going to happen next week?
I don't know, just a second. Let me get my crystal ball out here and I'll tell you.
No, I was thinking about a party, but that reminds me. Have you ever been to one of the fortune tellers on the street?
No.
Why not?
Why would I waste my money or time?
That's true. I mean, honestly, I haven't personally been to one of those either, but a lot of people actually do.
Oh, yeah. I think more so here than other places, especially for, deciding if your
future husband,
mate
wife
is correct or choosing the names for your babies, things like that.
That's important. I mean, I think now that you've mentioned it, in general, let me generalize here, a lot of females go to these fortune tellers.
Yeah, I don't think men really care that much about it.
They get dragged along by their girlfriends?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, for them it's fun sometimes when the reading turns out to be really positive. Like they're your long-lasting love, they're your soulmate type thing.
Yeah.
But if the fortune teller says, oh, this person isn't right for you, then you're stuck. What are you going to do?
But you don't pay. Do Korean fortune tellers use tarot cards or crystal balls or something?
I don't think they use crystal balls. I haven't been to one.
Okay.
But I think they have a set of papers or characters.
Okay.
And they get the person's birthday or blood type.
They do a lot based on their birthday and their birth time.
Yeah,
people have asked me what time of day I was born. I don't know.
Yeah, and your name as well.
I see. That has to be a Chinese character, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, and like you said, the time is really important. A lot of future mothers-in-law go and secretly get this done behind their son's back. I found that funny.
So do you want to go and check out a fortune teller for your boyfriend?
No, thanks.
Okay, we'll skip it.
All right, I liked today's conversation between Peter and Joanne. It was pretty interesting. We had a chance to find out whether Peter was interested in fortune telling or not, but it wasn't so much about being interested in it. He said he does not believe in fortune tellers, or fortune telling, that is. Okay, let's take a look at the actual talk conversation together then. Here we go. Well, Joanne begins by asking, hey Peter, do you know what's going to happen next week? Do you know what's going to happen next week? I wonder why she asked that question. And of course Peter says, I don't know. And he says, just a second. And he says, let me get my crystal ball out here and I'll tell you. Here we have crystal. Here we go. Crystal ball. Especially in, I guess, American fortune telling, a lot of fortune tellers, they will read your fortune, okay? They give their readings by looking through a crystal ball. Or they even read your palm. They're called palm readers. That is why he's saying, wait a minute, let me pull out, let me get my crystal ball out here, and then I'll tell you. So he's being a bit sarcastic. He's joking a little bit with Rachel, okay? Oh, with Joanne, sorry. And then Joanne says, no, I was thinking about a party. So she was actually talking about something else. Anyhow, here we go. But that reminds me, okay? That reminds me. Now that you've mentioned fortune telling, she says, have you ever been to one of those fortune tellers? Okay? On the street, though. I've seen plenty of fortune tellers on the streets. You have too, right? They have those small tents built up on the streets, and they either read your palm sometimes and they tell your fortune. Anyhow, she says, have you ever been to a fortune teller? Have you ever been to a fortune teller? And he says, no, exclamation mark. That's a definite no, right? So Joanne says, why not? And then he says, why would I waste my money or time? Okay, why would I waste money going to a fortune teller? Why would I waste my time going to a fortune teller? So we can tell that he is not interested in fortune telling at all. Now, Joanne says, honestly, I haven't personally been to one of those either, but a lot of people actually do. That's true. A lot of people do. I think especially in Korea, okay? Now, Peter says, oh yeah, I think more so here than other places. Now, we are making a comparison more so here than other places. So he's just saying more people go to fortune tellers here than in other places, thus other countries perhaps. So he's making a comparison, especially for deciding if your mate is correct. Now, we took a look at the word mate before. It was more of like a guy friend, a coworker, a really close friend. But here, it could actually mean a spouse as well, right? There was a definition. I gave you many synonyms for mate. And one of the synonyms was spouse, the person you are married to, your wife or your husband. So he's saying especially to decide if, or for deciding if your mate is correct, meaning if your mate is the right person for you, or choosing the names of your babies or names for your babies. That's true. A lot of moms or expecting mothers or fathers to be, yeah, they may go to fortune tellers to ask, so what is a good name for my son? What is a good name for my daughter, right? So a lot of people do go to choose the names for their babies as well. Now, Joanne says that's important. I think in general, a lot of females, a lot of women go to these fortune tellers. Now, Peter says, yeah, I don't think men really care that much about it, okay? I don't think men really care that much about it. They don't care about something. In other words, they're not interested in fortune telling. Not as much as women, okay? Once again, we're making a comparison. And this is, of course, Peter's opinion. Now, Joanne says they get dragged along by their girlfriends, okay? Now, she's asking a question, but yeah, well, anyhow, Peter agrees. He says, yeah, maybe. Now, this is something we'll go over later on. To be dragged along by someone or to be dragged along with someone to a certain place means that you are being dragged. Now, what does drag mean? You could drag your foot. If you say that, it means that you are not lifting your foot from the ground. You're dragging it slowly on the ground. So imagine kids, like a little boy. If he doesn't want to go to the dentist, for example, moms have to drag them to the dentist, right? And the boys will say, no, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. So that is dragging. If you drag someone along or drag someone to a certain place, you are making them go somewhere that they don't want to go. Okay, so one more time, Joanne says, they get dragged along by their girlfriends. Men get dragged along by their girlfriends. It's fun sometimes, though, she says, when the reading turns out to be really positive. Now, what is a reading? You will get a reading if you go to a fortune teller. This is basically another word for translation or interpretation. Fortune tellers will give you a reading, okay? Or when they give you the reading, it can turn out to be positive or negative. What does turn out mean? Simply result, okay? So when you get the readings, they can be positive or negative. You'll hear good things, but sometimes you'll also hear bad things. Like, they're your long-lasting love. These are just examples. This is a positive reading. They're your long-lasting love. Or what about this one? They're your soulmate. We went over this too. Now, soulmate is, of course, mate. It's a friend, someone you love, someone you care for a lot, a very special person, especially because it's a soulmate. Not just a mate, but a soulmate. Soulmates often, they fall deeply in love with each other and they have this very special, very strong bond, very strong connection. You understand each other's feelings. You're there for each other no matter what, in any circumstance. So perhaps your husband or your wife is your soulmate, okay? So she says, but if the fortune teller says, oh, this person isn't right for you. Now, this is negative. Then you're stuck. Uh-oh, you're stuck with a problem. And then she says, what are you going to do? So, what did Peter say? Now, he said that if he gets a negative reading and they say, well, this isn't the person for you, he says, well, you don't pay. I'm not going to pay them. And he says, do Korean fortune tellers use tarot cards or crystal balls or something? Now, I think we say taro in Korean. They're tarot cards and also crystal balls. As I told you, they're crystal balls that fortune tellers look into when they give you or when they tell you your fortune. Now, Joanne says, I think they have a set of paper or characters. Set of paper, that's right, lots of paper, or even a set of characters. And they get the person's birthday. Now, that's what Joanne said, but to be a little more exact, I think you can say birth date, okay? Yeah, they ask you the exact birth date, okay? Time you were born, year you were born, and the month and day you were born, so you can say birthday or birth date as well. Now, Peter says, oh yeah, they do a lot based on something, based on their birthday and their birth time, okay? So a lot of these fortunes are told based on somebody's birthday or birth date and their birth time. To be based on something is to be built on something, okay? So you have a base and it's built on it. Now he says, people have asked me what time of day I was born. Now, what time of day actually means, well, time of day, simply. So people have asked me what time of day I was born. People have asked me what time I was born. Now, Joanne says exactly, and your name as well. So they ask you for your birth date, your birth time, and your name as well. And she says, like you said, the time is really important. A lot of mothers or future mothers-in-law go and they secretly get this done behind their sons' backs. We do have a few colored phrases here and words here. So first of all, let's see. A lot of mothers, that's simple, a lot of moms or future mothers-in-law. Future, meaning if you're not married yet, well, your mother on your husband's side or your husband's mother or soon-to-be husband's mother would be your mother-in-law, but future mother-in-law. We'll go over this later on and practice that. So what do? They go to a fortune teller and they secretly get this done behind their sons' backs, okay? To do something behind someone's back is what? Now imagine this, okay? There's a person standing here facing that way, and you're behind that person, can the person see you or not? No, he or she cannot see you. So you're doing something behind that person's back, meaning you're doing something very secretly without having this person know what you're doing. So to do something behind someone's back means to do something secretly, okay? And then she says, I found that funny. So, do you want to go and check out a fortune teller for your boyfriend? Okay. Oh, that should have been, oh, that's right. Yeah, Peter says, do you want to go to a fortune teller for your boyfriend? And of course, Joanne says, no thanks. So we can sense that Joanne is not really into fortune telling either. But definitely, yeah, we know for a fact that Peter is really not into fortune telling at all. Remember? No exclamation mark. And he said, why waste money or time going to a fortune teller? Anyhow, I think it's interesting though. I think sometimes it's fun to go just to find out what they have to say to you. And if you really have questions and you're curious, I'd say just go ahead and go. Forget the bad things, the bad readings, the bad things you hear, and just remember the positive messages you get. Anyhow, with that in mind, take a listen to the actual talk conversation one more time.
Hey, Peter, do you know what's going to happen next week?
I don't know. Just a second. Let me get my crystal ball out here and I'll tell you.
No, I was thinking about a party, but I mean, oh, that reminds me. Have you ever been to one of the fortune tellers on the street?
No.
Why not?
Why would I waste my money or time?
That's true. I mean, honestly, I haven't personally been to one of those either, but a lot of people actually do.
Oh, yeah. I think more so here than other places, especially for, deciding if your
future husband,
mate
wife
is correct or choosing the names for your babies, things like that.
That's important. I mean, I think now that you've mentioned it, in general, let me generalize here. A lot of females go to these fortune tellers.
Yeah, I don't think men really care that much about it.
They get dragged along by their girlfriends.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, for them, it's fun sometimes when the reading turns out to be really positive. Like they're your long-lasting love, they're your soulmate type thing.
Yeah.
But if the fortune teller says, oh, this person isn't right for you, then you're stuck. What are you going to do?
You don't pay. Do Korean fortune tellers use tarot cards or crystal balls or something?
I don't think they use crystal balls. I haven't been to one, but I think they have a set of papers or characters.
Okay.
And they get the person's birthday or blood type.
Yeah, they do a lot based on their birthday and their birth time.
Yeah,
people have asked me what time of day I was born. I don't know.
Yeah, and your name as well.
I see. That has to be a Chinese character, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, and like you said, the time is really important. A lot of mothers, or future mothers-in-law, go and secretly get this done behind their son's back. I found that funny.
So do you want to go and check out a fortune teller for your boyfriend?
No, thanks.
Okay, we'll skip it.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Did you enjoy the actual talk conversation once more? Okay, now let's move on to actual expressions. Let's check out some vocab words from today's actual talk. Well, of course, fortune telling is today's topic. So let's go over fortune teller. Tell. Fortune tell means to tell somebody's fortune. But adding an ER means a person. So this would be a person that tells someone's fortune, predicts the future, for example. So fortune teller would be the pronunciation. Some synonyms are psychic, okay? Psychic, spiritualist, or even a palm reader, as I mentioned. You do see some people sometimes reading your palm, right? The lines on your palm, and they are called palm readers. Moving on to reading, as I mentioned, some synonyms are review, but even better, especially if you are talking about fortune telling. Now, that would mean interpretation. What about soulmate? Not just mate, but soulmate, everyone. We're talking about your true love, your husband, your wife, or your lover, a person that you have a strong affinity for. someone that you really, really can connect with, that you have a strong bond with, someone you really, really love and care for. And many of soulmates, many people that say that they have found their soulmate say they feel so much at ease and they feel calm and so peaceful whenever they are with their soulmate. So yes, it would be your Mr. Right or Miss Right. Okay, let's move on to some patterns then. Remember, drag someone along to a certain place or drag someone to or into something means you're forcing someone to go somewhere or to do something when they don't want to do it. Okay, you're forcing them. We dragged Tina to a fortune teller. Okay, drag to a fortune teller. So this means Tina did not want to go to a fortune teller, but you had to drag her. Okay, one more time. We dragged Tina to a fortune teller. She didn't want to go, but we dragged her to a fortune teller. Last weekend, I was on a drag along with my friend to a club. Now, in this case, it's a noun, okay? Okay, so we were on, or I was on a drag along with a hyphen there, means that you were dragged to a certain place. But in this case, it is used as a noun, and keep in mind, there is a hyphen between drag and along, all right? What about based on? Now, I told you that if something is based on something, it is built on something. It is grounded on something. So, a lot of films, even novels, are based on true stories. In this case, you can say the film is based on a true story. Okay? The film is based on a true story. Okay, what about this one? The director bases his works on real people, real characters. Okay, so it's built on something. It is grounded on something. This becomes the foundation. In this sentence, real people would be the foundation. And of course, in this case, true story would be the foundation of the film. Okay, because the film is based on a true story. Now, in-laws. This is tricky, so let's take a look at this quickly. In-law means you are related by marriage. You can have a sister-in-law, a brother-in-law, mother-in-law, father-in-law, and so on and so forth. But you can also add an S and just say my in-laws, meaning all of my relatives by marriage, okay? They are my parents-in-law. This is tricky, okay? They are my parents-in-law. You're talking about mom and dad. Parents-in-law. What about this one? People say that generally it is easier to please fathers-in-law than mothers-in-law. The reason I said this is tricky is because in many cases people say father-in-laws, okay? Now, do not make that mistake. Always add the S on the father or the mother, okay? Fathers-in-law, never father-in-laws, okay? Keep that in mind and good job.
So the only personal experience I have with fortune telling is once, I was flirting with a girl and she wanted to read my palm and I was like, okay. So I held out my hand and she started tracing the lines on my hand. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she started telling me things about my future, like, oh, you have such a long lifeline, and like, there's these things that mean you're gonna have a lot of money, and this and that and the other, and oh, you've got that M thing. And I was like, okay, it means you're creative. I was like, no stretch of the imagination there, I play the bass. So yeah, fortune telling, not such a believer, but it is pretty useful for, breaking the ice, I guess.
All right, that was a great story. Thanks to Garen. Let's take a quick look at what he shared about fortune telling. He said, the only personal experience I had with fortune telling was just once. Meaning I went to a fortune teller just once. I was flirting. Oh, he's not talking about a fortune teller. Oh, I was flirting with a girl and she wanted to read my palm. There we go. Now he's talking about an experience where he had with a girl. So she wanted to read his palm. Maybe she was interested in him. I held out my hand and then she started tracing the lines on my hand. So to trace something means to follow the steps of something, the footsteps of something, right? So basically saying I held out my hand, I gave her my hand, and she was tracing the lines on my hand, okay? She started telling me things about my future, such as, oh, you have such a long lifeline. I think we say 생명선, right? It tells how long you live, whether you will have a long life or a short life. So she says, oh, let me see. Wow, you have a long lifeline, okay? You're going to have a lot of money, she says. A lot of money. That's good news. What about this one? He says, I'm not such a believer, meaning I don't really believe in fortune telling, but it is pretty useful when? For breaking the ice. That's a wonderful expression. To break the ice is what? It means to make a conversation or say something, talk about something to break the awkwardness in a situation. So when you meet someone for the first time and you don't know each other, it can be very awkward, right? You can talk about a few things such as this or do things like this to break the ice, to get rid of the awkwardness. All right, thanks for sharing, Garen, once again, and hope you all enjoyed it.
So the only personal experience I have with fortune telling is once, I was flirting with a girl and she wanted to read my palm and I was like, okay. So I held out my hand and she started tracing the lines on my hand. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she started telling me things about my future, like, oh, you have such a long lifeline, and like, there's these things that mean you're gonna have a lot of money, and this and that and the other, and oh, you've got that M thing. And I was like, okay, it means you're creative. I was like, no stretch of the imagination there, I play the bass. So yeah, fortune telling, not such a believer, but it is pretty useful for, breaking the ice, I guess.
Well, today we talked about fortune telling and fortune tellers, also a bit about a long lifeline on your palm, as well as palm reading. There are tons of things you can talk about when it comes to fortune telling, so I hope you have fun the next time you have the chance to talk about today's topic. All right, next time I'll be joining you with another interesting topic. This is if you are kind of superstitious. Let me ask you, do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in spirits? That's our topic for next time, ghosts and spirits. Okay, in the meantime, come to our homepage, find your way over to www.ebse.co.kr and just look for Actual English with Jennifer. Okay, until next time, take good care of yourselves and see you again soon. Bye for now, everyone.